folks. Welcome back to the Law and Crime Network. I'm Michel Bryant, and for the early portion of the afternoon session today, okay, I knew it was coming. You know, she kept kind of teasing, finally, folks, and one more thing, and just another note. But finally, the rebuttal has wrapped up there. That is the prosecution's Pam Anderson in this case against Roy Coons out of Tennessee. Now, what will happen next, just to give you a foreshadowing here, is the court, of course, will instruct the jury on the law. They're taking a break now, and they should get one after the series of closing arguments that they just heard. I'm with Gene Rossi. And Gene, before we talk more about this case, and we'll keep an eye on it, obviously, and we'll keep you posted as the jury begins their deliberations. But other things are happening in the news, Gene. One of your favorite stories, Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. Yeah. You know, some call him Jeffrey Epstein. I kind of call him Jeffrey Epstein. But he was in court again today. Remember, let me just to backtrack for folks who don't remember the last 8-9 days. He was arrested on 2 counts of federal sex trafficking charges, has been in custody since, and while waiting for trial, hopes to get out of custody. And so there's been this prolonged bail hearing where there have been a number of papers prepared, arguments made. Today, back in court for what Epstein had hoped was, a decision that would kick him out of jail locally and send him back to his palace here in Manhattan. That didn't happen. Today, the judge said, I need some more time. So Thursday, he will make a decision. He's weighing all of the information provided by the defense, provided by the prosecution. Give me your initial thoughts, Gene, then we're going to dig into this a little bit.
Well, I got to tell you this. I think the judge is going to detain him, and I think the judge wants to give a thorough finding because his Epstein's defense team will probably try to appeal the ruling, which is going to go nowhere if he's detained. But there's plenty to detain him. Number one, he is an incredible risk of flight. He's 66 years old. He is facing incredibly significant evidence of guilt. If he's convicted, he will serve at least 15 to 20 years in prison. That's a life sentence. Number two, and this is the most important in addition to risk of flight, danger to the community involves tampering with witnesses. And if you recall, Bernie Madoff was originally let out on bond, 12 million, I think it was. And then on bond, he was doing a lot of crazy stuff with his money. And I don't know if he was tampering with witnesses, but I bet you that judge is aware of the Bernie Madoff case when he was initially bonded. And Jeffrey Epstein has every motive to do no good when he's on bond. That's what I would argue as a prosecutor. So I predict he'll be detained. The judge wants to be thorough. He's going to make a very accurate and thorough finding of facts to keep him in jail.
Yeah, I do believe, if for no other reason but political reasons, he's going to go as far as he has to keep him in jail. Now, let me put on the defense hat, though, and tell you why I think there's a shot that he could get out. Remember, the standard basically is flight risk and safety to others or society. Is he a threat to society? So they've offered up, the defense has offered up 14 things they're willing to do to make sure that he is not a flight risk and that he is no danger. And that includes basically house arrest with the monitoring and with somebody living in the house with him, a court-appointed agent of some sort. That's not bad. That's a good move. And also, they're going to lock down his plane, take his passport, of course. But in the midst of the search of the house, we also have learned that not only did he have cash and diamonds in a safe they found in the house, he had a Saudi Arabia passport with his name on it. And not his name, sorry, another name. It had expired, but it certainly doesn't help the defense to have to deal with that. Having said that, I think they've come up with some pretty good reasons to at least say, put this guy on house arrest. And one of the reasons I mention that and suggest it might be viable is, don't you think in jail he could do a lot of the manipulating that he might be threatened if he's staying home? He could reach out to people. There are mob bosses in jail running an operation here and there. Why couldn't he do that in jail?
Oh, let me tell you this. If the judge really put the hammer on him, when he's in jail, he can only make one call, and that's to his attorneys. He can get visitors, but that call is going to be recorded. So in jail, he's limited extremely. But when he's at home, he can use a cell phone. He can get access to a computer. He could get visitors. and he could be up to no good. And the more I think about it, this person is not worthy of trust because of what he's alleged to have done. And number two, the wires of $350,000 after he found out that he was being charged. If I were a judge, that would send a huge red flag. And bear in mind, Michael, for risk of flight at a bond hearing, the federal prosecutor only has a burden of preponderance. For danger to the community, the burden of proof is on clear and convincing. They have satisfied both those versions in this case, and that's why I think he will be detained.
Yeah, I agree he's going to be detained, and I think that it's at least as much political as factual. What do you think about the fact that he's never been incarcerated, really? I mean, when you think about what the wrist slap he got back there in Florida, this guy, I don't think he's going to wear well, even in temporary detention.
Oh, I take the view that when you're his age, when you're over 50, over 60, I'll be 63. I know I look like I'm 39. But if I were in prison, I always take the view, and just look at Paul Manafort. Every month or year you're in prison, just multiply that times 6 times, because it just takes so much out of you, not just physically, but mentally.
Yeah, and that picture that everybody sees of him looking a little haggard and gray, I'm sure we've got that for you. That wasn't from this most recent arrest. That was from 2 years ago. And he already kind of looked a little beat up to me. So, he's not the kind of guy that's going to do well in prison. I think we're probably consistent in agreement on that. Thank you, Gene. Obviously, we're going to be continuing to follow this case on the Law&Crime Network. I've been following this thing for more than a year now myself, and some of the things I've learned are outrageous and will unfold over time, I guarantee you. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. Roy Coons, those folks are being instructed, that jury being instructed soon to begin deliberations. Rosenbaum on break. They'll be back soon. We'll be in that courtroom in Georgia, too. Stay where you are.